Hey friend, and welcome to the brand new Christian Podcasting Secrets. I am your host, Tammy Munson, and I am thrilled to have you join me on this brand new journey. Now, this podcast is about empowering you, the Christian woman, to create and grow your faith-based podcast that not only shares your voice, but also glorifies God. We will take deep dives into the how-tos, the whys, and the transformative power of podcasting grounded in Scripture. So whether you're just starting out or you're looking to deepen your podcast impact, this, my friends, is the place for you. Let's get started. Hey friend, welcome back to the podcast. Today's episode is all about stepping into your calling. Now, many times when we think about a calling, our minds go straight to traditional roles within the church. But what if I told you that your calling may be completely different from those options, like starting a podcast, leading a Bible study online, or sharing your faith through stories? Today, we are going to explore the endless possibilities of answering God's call. Before we get started today, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for all of the wonderful feedback that we got on episode 1. Your messages and email really, truly made my day. So again, thank y'all so much. Okay, let's get to the main topic of today's episode. Now, God's calling for us isn't confined to the walls of a church. It can extend into any aspect of our lives, especially in areas where we feel most passionate. Take, for example, my friend Michelle. She felt a pull towards sharing the word and started her podcast, Open Our Bibles Together. It's a beautiful platform where she discusses biblical topics and engages with listeners eager to deepen their understanding of Scripture, one chapter or sometimes chapters at a time. This is one way to live out your calling through podcasting and connecting with others globally. God equips us by His grace for whatever He calls us to. He asks us to be faithful in the little things and in the big things. But one is not more significant than the other. Actually, they go hand in hand. All that is important is that we are ready to obey in faith, no matter what He puts before us. There are many examples in the Bible. Let's take a look at one of the most obvious ones, Mary, the mother of Jesus. When God's plan was revealed to her in Luke chapter 1, we discover she said an immediate yes. She didn't say, well, let me think about it, or she didn't pause, she didn't pray, she didn't question it or think about it. She didn't ask someone what their opinion was or worry about, oh my gosh, what are people going to think? Instead, she said, here I am, let it be with me according to your word. First of all, how impressive is that? Because when Mary says this, she didn't know what the next steps were going to be. She only knew that God was asking her to serve Him, and she willingly obeyed. Friend, we need to be more like Mary. We need to say yes to God in the middle of all the uncertainty, the unknowns of the call to serve Him, and then let Him work out the details in His timing. Now, that might not be today or tomorrow. It could be next month or 6 months or even several years. But the bottom line is this, and I'm going to get a little bossy here. Y'all know that I can. We need to answer this call when God leads us to something specific. We need to be obedient in our actions, one day at a time, one step at a time. Because truthfully, it can be very difficult to say yes when God calls us. Even in my own story of God calling me to something is a journey, and we can't question it. We need to understand that this is His plan for me. Now, while I did say yes, in the initial moments, I have spent the last 5 years working out that calling in some very big, significant ways. Don't get me wrong. There have been a lot of small baby steps and pitfalls along the way. There were a lot of times where I had to step out in faith, complete 100% faith. But each of those steps led to the next. Each one was another yes to God's call. You see, my journey to embrace God's calling wasn't straightforward at all. I mean, is any journey completely linear? No. There are peaks and valleys and side excursions. And for many years, I was a Jane of all trades, working on projects from audio editing to graphic design to web design to consulting here and there while my husband and I raised our 2 daughters. But something happened in the fall of 2019. I attended Blistum. Now, Blistum was a conference that was put on yearly by my friend Allie Worthington, and I knew that this was going to be the last one. So I went. I remember sitting there listening to the final keynote, and I was inspired by Allie's talk. She posed a powerful question. What are you going to be doing a year from now? Now, y'all, I remember looking up at her thinking, girl, I don't even know what I'm doing next week, much less what I'm going to be doing a year from now. Now, like I said, this is fall of 2019. Nobody knew what was on the horizon yet. Nobody knew what we were going to be going through in 2020. But at this point in time, I was at a crossroads. My youngest daughter, Rebecca, was a senior in high school. And I had the second half of my life to figure out what was I going to do. I had all this knowledge of tech and design and marketing, but I wanted something fun. I wanted whatever it was going to be to give me a sense of purpose, a calling, because I'm an entrepreneur at heart. So what was next for me? Allie's question sparked a profound reflection about how to use my skills. And I heard God clearly say that weekend, tell their stories. Now, I love storytelling, but what? As usual, God wasn't laying all the details for me. That weekend was filled with images of fire and a phoenix rising from the ashes and so many other things. I didn't have a clue to what any of it meant. Now, God revealed much of it in time, which I'll share on future episodes, of course. But here's the thing. He knew that I would probably run for the hills if he revealed all of it to me in that moment, in that seat at Blistum. Now, on the plane ride home, my head was swirling with thoughts and ideas, and I thought about how to serve God and others. How could I help them tell their stories? Who was the them? After prayer and reflection and talking with friends and family and just really thinking about it, it led me to helping others tell their stories through podcasting. Because I realized that my calling was to facilitate and to amplify voices in the Christian community, helping them broadcast their faith-filled stories across the globe. Like I said, there is so much more of that to unpack, which I will share in future episodes. But one important part of this podcast is to not only share my story, but to give you the specific strategies, the solutions. So let me ask you, what do you do when God calls you to something? Friends, don't worry. I got 5 strategies that are going to help you on this journey. Number 1, as always, prayer and reflection. It all starts with prayer. Ask God to reveal his plans for you and open those doors that he wants you to walk through. It may take time, and that is totally okay. The next thing, start doing research. Look into the different areas where your interest and your talents can serve God's purpose. Find out where you can make the most impact, whether it's a podcast on interviewing others on biblical topics, a Bible study, or something else. Find a way to make your show unique to you and to your audience. because there are so many Christian podcasts out there. You want it to be unique. My next tip for you is to seek mentorship or find a coach. Find someone who embodies the values and the achievements that you aspire to and can provide support and honest feedback when needed. Now, don't get me wrong. I personally would love to work with each and every one of you, but that might not be an option. I want you to find someone who can help you get to where you want to be, to where God is calling you to be. But I want you to start small. Don't wait for a big revelation. Start with what you have and where you are. If you're interested in launching your podcast, I want you to begin with essential equipment, a computer and a microphone, and grow as you go. Now, I will drop in a couple of recommendations into the show notes about what microphone you should start with for a variety of budgets. It doesn't have to break the bank. The other thing I want you to continue to learn, keep educating yourself, attend workshops, read books, listen to other podcasts, and stay engaged with communities that align with your calling. Now, one community that I am personally a part of is called Called Creatives, which is led by my dear friends, Allie Worthington and Lisa Whittle. I love this community so much. It is absolutely wonderful and is for those called by God to podcast, write, and or speak. I've made so many friends in this community, and I'll make sure to drop the link in the show notes for you. Now, before we wrap up this episode, I got to get a little bossy about something. Now, as I've alluded to multiple times, I'm an Enneagram 8, and we shoot straight from the hip, and we're very honest about this. One thing I am being asked about a lot right now is video. We get at least 2 to 3 requests about video every single week. Now, if you're thinking of doing a podcast, but the video aspect is stopping you, let me give you permission right here, right now. You do not have to do a video podcast. Video is trending currently. That doesn't mean you need to be there too. You can work your way up to video, or you can do an audio. It does not have to be all the things all from the very beginning. I promised you that I would be sharing my secrets here. So here goes. Here's the secret sauce, y'all. I don't think the everyone needs to have video trend is going to stay for the long term. There, I've said it. It's just not sustainable for everyone. It's a high expense barrier to podcasting, and there's all kind of reasons why. But one of the main benefits of an audio-only podcast is that it's relatively inexpensive to get started. I know I'm going to get all the notes from all the people, and that's perfectly okay. I can handle it. Now, speaking of tips, how's that for a transition? Are you getting my weekly tips email? I've curated my top practical tips for podcasters covering everything from editing to production to marketing and more. And I put it all into a short 2-minute read in an email delivered straight to your inbox every single Tuesday. So friends, if you're tired of figuring out everything on your own and you could use a podcast pro whispering into your ear each week with little tidbits of wisdom and inspiration and just great tips, this is for you. You can go ahead and sign up at wildfirecreativecompany.com to stay connected and empowered. Friend, remember, stepping into your calling is about obedience. Obedience to the plans that God has for you, even when they're outside of the conventional paths. When you align your actions with your faith, you open up to a world of possibilities, not for personal growth, but also for profound impact on each other's lives. So take that step, trust in His guidance, and watch as your journey unfolds in the most miraculous ways. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Christian Podcasting Secrets, and have a great week. Bye, y'all.